contaminated property there.
Oh, they do. Did they know that?
I think so. They took the junkyards out. So
Yeah, sure. Well, excellent. And to this day, you're very active in the community. You do a lot of public service. You and your sister, whom we're going to speak to momentarily, but could you tell us a little bit about your community activities now?
well, mainly it's through my church, First Baptist Church, and we do our fellowship dinners on Wednesday night, and then I was trained for disaster relief, and we do the spaghetti dinner out at Relay for Life for the cancer and things like that. I help up the church on the maintenance, on the grounds crew, and what I can. I'm not really into any organization like the Elks or the Moose or anything like that, but if somebody needs help, I'm more than willing to help.
You said you have something, a regularly scheduled dinner on Wednesday nights? Was it Wednesday nights? Is that what?
Yeah, up at the church we have a fellowship dinner. Anybody's welcome, and it's $5 a person normally. I think and it starts at 4:30 or 4:45 and runs to 5:45, and we have a big fellowship hall and people congregate and fellowship and everything through the meal.
You know, that's the substance of a community, and there's a lot of community activism in both Grass Valley and Nevada City, and that's what makes a community. Darrell, your sister just mentioned that you've had some knowledge of the hospitality house. Could you tell me what that's all about?
Well, the hospitality house here in Nevada County is for the homeless, and a lot of different churches right now, they're in a process of building a hospitality house back up on Sutton Way. But a lot of the churches on different nights, so they have a place to sleep in the winter time. And we have it at our church, the First Baptist, on the second Wednesday of every month and the fifth. If there's a fifth Wednesday, we supply the meals, we cook them, and we also have our fellowship dinner first, and then there's a break, and then hospitality house comes in at 6:30, and they eat until about 6:30 to 8, and then they sleep there in the fellowship hall, and they get them breakfast and get them out in the morning and that.
Do you have any idea the numbers?
Well, we have a big kitchen, so everybody eats the same thing, and a lot of the churches do potlucks. So we probably get more up there where we are than they do in a lot of places, because they can eat as much as they want, and everybody eats the same thing. So we average 40 to 45, maybe 47, 48 people a night.
When they open up the hospitality house on Sutton Way, will that keep you from doing the cooking, or is that scheduled to remain the same? Are they going to be doing the cooking on site?
I'm not really sure. I've heard rumors that they're going to want the churches to supply the food. I'm not sure if they're going to have a kitchen, or if they do have a kitchen, they want people to come in and do the cooking rather than hire and keep a full-time chef. I'm not really sure. But our fellowship dinners will continue, but we may not have the hospitality house at the church. So I'm not really sure. It's up in the air on that.
Well, I don't know what you could do better with your life than help somebody out. I think that's what we're here for. And I'd like to kind of refocus on Marian Jewett's life and times growing up in Grass Valley. So you were a young lady living with two brothers? No, a sister and a brother. And did you have household chores that each was dedicated, or did you have little jobs in the community when you were a young one?
No, I never worked in the community for that type of thing, but we all had chores. Of course, I think that we always said, no, it's his turn to do that, or it's her turn to do that. But anyway, we helped with dishes and the garbage and miscellaneous things like that. We had to keep our rooms clean, and of course that was my sister, I'm kind of a neat freak, maybe OCD, and my sister just loved to leave the room in a mess because we shared a room, and just to bug me, because she knew she could get my goat for that reason. Anyway, so we had our little difficulties along those lines.
Was your mother a gardener?
No, not really. I mean, she kind of just kept care of us, and keeping care of us was enough, I think. She did want to go to work at one time, and she was a very intelligent woman and had studied accounting and whatnot. But Dad felt it was real important for her to be at home. And of course, the first thing the minute we hit the door is, "Mom, are you home? Mom, where are you?" So he felt that was important. So she was always home for us. She also helped take care of my daughter, who, when I had her and had come back after nursing school. And so she had plenty to do. There was no lack of that. She was also very active in the Ophir Hill Volunteer Fire Department Auxiliary. Dad and about 4 others in the Cedar Ridge and Union Hill area decided they needed a volunteer fire department. So they built the original Ophir Hill Volunteer Fire Department, which is right next to, it's now a private home, but it was right next to Calvary Bible Church. And after they got it built, I was living in my grandmother's house, and the back fence was near the Calvary Bible and the fire department. So when a fence went in, there had to be a pedestrian gate so Dad could run through that gate and beat Ed Hamilton, who lived on Pine Hill Drive, to the fire truck. So because whoever got there first drove the truck. And Ed Hamilton was the father of my best friend that I've had since 2nd grade. And she still has her home there. My brother lives in the home we grew up in, and I have our grandmother's house. But I don't live there presently. But that is my eventual return to that area.
You briefly alluded to schools. Now, you went through the public school system in Grass Valley.
Actually, we all went all 8 grades to Union Hill School. We walked 1 block down the hill across the highway, Highway 174, to the school, which was smaller than it is now. So all of us graduated from there and then went into high school and went to the Nevada Union High School.
You went to Nevada Union. You were probably one of the first graduating classes,
Not the first, but we were very early on when they joined Nevada City and Grass Valley. I think there was 1 class ahead of us that graduated the first for the joint. But we were very instrumental. Our class, the class of 1956, when they were trying to get the school bond passed for the new high school where it is now, we all paraded from Grass Valley School up to Nevada City in protest or in support of the school bond. So we just left classes that day and marched up here. And I remember one of the girls, my classmates, the gals, and one fellow joins us periodically. We get together about once a month for lunch. And we were talking the other day about that, and she said, and of all days to wear a brand new pair of shoes, she said, I had such blisters on my feet. Anyway, so we were very active in school.
And once you graduated from high school, you carried on.
Yes, I went to nursing school at Santa Rosa Junior College. Fortunately, it was economical. Mom and Dad had to buy my uniforms, which was $75, and basically provide my personal needs. I lived in a dormitory, and it was kind of like family. For 3 years, our class was all together, and we still have reunions after all these years. And we ate at the hospital. It was a county hospital. Basically, our schooling provided them help, and so we were doing patient care. We had to pay for our books at junior college, but all nursing books or anything related to that were paid for through our school. So it was something mom and dad could afford, you know. So that worked out nicely.
And once you had your nursing certificate, what happened?
Well, I came home and I applied over at Weimar Medical Center at the time. Now, Weimar Medical Center used to be Weimar Joint Sanatorium. It was started in 1919 by 19 counties in the state of Nevada, and it was strictly for care of tuberculosis. At that time, they had no treatment except fresh air and sunshine. And the buildings still exist, but it's now called Weimar Institute. I haven't been over there for quite a while, but it is a health facility run, as far as I know, by the Seventh-day Adventists, at my last knowledge. And it actually at one time had 4 colleges associated with it, too. One of which was automotive, because I did donate a car to them. But I don't know what else they have. And construction was another one, but whether they still have those or not, I don't know. But
So the patients would come from not only California, but parts of Nevada, and they all had one thing in common. They all had tuberculosis, which was an affliction of the lungs. And so there was a lot of coughing. Were you ever concerned about your own well-being in a situation like that?
no, and because we wore gowns and masks when we were with active tuberculosis patients, well, even the inactive ones, because you never knew if it might activate again. And actually, tuberculosis can affect all parts of the body. I mean, they can have it of the spine and so on. And there were a lot of children there. It was over 440 acres. It had its own water system. It had its own cemetery. And it was very sad to go out there because there were a lot of babies out there and, young people who had died of it. And supposedly, we're below the snow and above the fog. Well, one of the houses, one of the buildings, what they called the glass house when I got there, it was completely open on both sides. The heads of the beds were into the middle with the radiators in the middle, and they had tarps on the end of the bed covering them because snow would blow in, and it was a real treatment with fresh air.
Not necessarily below the snow sometimes.
No, not exactly. But by the time I had gotten there, it had become a general hospital. We had elderly patients that were there like a convalescent hospital for care. We still had tuberculosis patients in separate buildings. We did a lot of private patient surgery, a lot of lung surgery, not only for tuberculosis but for cancer. Took care of a lot of cancer patients. And then in 1972, they decided that all county hospitals should be closed, and that patients should be able to go to private hospitals. There was some talk that the county hospitals didn't give as good a care and so on. Well, the patients actually got excellent care, and I think they did at most county hospitals. But it was a change, and so the buildings and everything were put up for auction, and a private party bought them. And then it was empty for quite a few years before the Weimar Institute took over, and I don't remember exactly what year. But when it closed, it was in 1972, or changed hands, I should say.
Did you meet a doctor up there?
Yes, my husband and I both worked there at Weimar Medical Center. And then when the hospital closed, he opened a practice here in October of 1972. And actually, the facility changed hands December 1st, 1972.
When you say he opened an office here, where do you mean?
Well, he was on Catherine Lane, Dr. George Jewett, and he was an internist here for 24 and a half years before he